Hi, my name is Joanna Cunha Cruz, and today we'll be talking about measurements and questionnaire development. I am faculty at the Community and Clinical Science departments in the School of Dentistry at UAB. This is an overview of what we're talking today, and you have more details about questionnaire and study design in your Canvas website. So is a questionnaire a study design? No, a questionnaire is not a study design. A questionnaire is a research instrument to collect data. When we talk about questionnaires, we think about a cross-sectional survey. That's a study design. But you can use questionnaires in any study design, like, for example, in randomized controlled trials, cohort studies, case control studies. It's a form of collecting data. What information are you trying to collect when you use a questionnaire? So we could be thinking about attitudes. Are you satisfied with dental care? Beliefs, what people think is true. Do you think candy causes cavities, for example? Behavior, what people do. Do you brush twice daily? Attributes and health status, what people have or are. So do you have health insurance? That would be an attribute or health status, like have you had hypertension? So questionnaires, they offer an objective means of collecting information about people's knowledge, beliefs, attitudes, behaviors, and health status or clinical outcomes that are reported by the patients or the participants. When we think about clinical outcome assessments, there are different ways to measure those. So a clinical outcome assessment is a measure that describes or reflects how a patient feels, functions, or survives. You could have patient-reported outcomes where the own patient or the person you are interested in reports what they feel, function, or how they survive. Or you can have observer-reported outcomes. For example, when you have a caregiver reporting about tooth decay of their kids, their experience with oral hygiene for their kids. So those would be an observer-reported outcome. And there are other types of clinical outcome assessments. For example, a clinician-reported outcome. Could you when we are developing a questionnaire, the first thing we need to check is, are there instruments available that have been developed for the concept you are trying to measure? Why do we need that? Because adopting common data elements and standard measures will promote and facilitate data harmonization. You can do cross-study analysis or systematic reviews. You will then accelerate translational research. There will be a greater understanding of health etiology and intervention effectiveness across different populations. So my suggestion is that you check the NIH Toolbox and the FANX toolkits for available questionnaires. But then you look there and you don't find a questionnaire that is covering that topic or that domain that you want to measure. So what do we need to do? So we would need to develop a questionnaire, but there is a systematic approach to develop the questionnaire so that we can achieve good validity, reliability, and standardization. So my suggestion is, if you have to develop the questionnaire, to consult a specialist, because there is certain steps that are recommended to be followed when you are developing a questionnaire. How do you know if a questionnaire is valid and reliable? When we are talking about reliability, is the ability of a question to discriminate respondents, a question or a scale, to discriminate respondents who think similarly from those who think differently. The validity of a questionnaire is if the questionnaire measures what it claims to measure. There are different types of reliability. You can assess test-retest reliability, that will be assessing whether the same questions yield consistent results when posed to the same individual at different times. Inter-rater reliability, it's to different individuals at a similar time. Another type of reliability is internal consistency, where you will be looking to assess whether different items in a questionnaire, in the same construct or domain, are correlated. So when we are developing a questionnaire, ideally, it will be assessing test-retest, inter-rater, and internal consistency. All those types of reliability should be assessed when developing a questionnaire. In terms of validity, when you are developing a questionnaire, you can also assess different types of validity. Face validity is whether the questionnaire measures what it intends to measure. Content validity is whether the content accurately assess all fundamental aspects of the topic. And it's usually done by content experts or an instrument development experts. The same with construct validity. You want to know if the survey items can adequately define the constructs being measured. And then finally, criterion validity, whether the survey items are comparable to a gold standard measure. So those are the types of validity that you could be assessing when developing a new questionnaire. We have an awesome example of a colleague, Carrie, who is developing the IQ. Carrie and a team of researchers, they want to measure the impacts of treatments during infants in the health and well-being of children born with a cleft lip, with or without a cleft palate. So what they are doing is very interesting. They completed a scoping review to see what are the measures out there. And they are interested in observer-reported outcomes. So she created a list of key concepts that are salient to them, to caregivers and healthcare providers, related to care of infants with cleft lip, with or without cleft palate. Since infants cannot report for themselves, they will choose signs that can be observed by caregivers. They identified 295 potential signs of infant well-being across 9 health areas. We can do a questionnaire with 295 items. So what they did a survey with experts so that they pare down the number of items. Then they pilot that questionnaire with a sample of caregiver to see if they were, to assess if it was legible and if they could comprehend it. And then they did an iterative process that they reduced the number of signs to 65 items within 9 health domains. The next step was to test that questionnaire in a sample of caregivers at different times in different hospitals across the United States. The researchers are continuing to develop the questionnaire, but now you can use that questionnaire. It's called the IQ, and you have the link in the Canvas webpage. And your assignment is related to that. So make sure that you take a look at the Canvas sites for the Coho Institutes. So thinking about questionnaire, how should you present your question? Keep it easy and simple, keep it short, keep it non-judgmental, and keep it culturally sensitive. So the summary points regarding measurements and questionnaire development is that when possible, use previously validated questionnaires. Remember that there is a systematic process to develop new valid, and reliable questionnaires. The questions must be phrased appropriately for the target audience and the information that you need to collect. Good explanations and design will improve your response rates in the questionnaire. And we'll be talking about survey methods in our next lecture. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.